Hi, my name's Clark Vincent, and I'm pastor of Oak Grove Presbyterian Church and Center Ridge Presbyterian Church. And originally I wanted to be here for this small church seminar, but then I realized I get to go on vacation. So, Andy and I talked about videotaping some of the questions that he had given me about small church. I've been in the pastorate over 30 years, and the last 4.5 years I've served Oak Grove and Center Ridge Church, and it's been really, really a blessing. And just want to share God's blessing with you and upon these churches. I was asked by Andy, how did Oak Grove and Center Ridge Presbyterian Church come to start to share a pastor? Well, as I did a little research, I realized that way back when, in 1940, Oak Grove and Center Ridge partnered with two other churches, Spring Hill and Fairview churches. And then in 42 to 46, during the war years, Mizpah Presbyterian Church joined them as well. So it sounds like, according to the history, there was a five-way yoke. And that continued through 1957, and then somewhere along there it stopped and it resumed in 1986, where at least the two churches were pastored or yoked together. And Andy asked me to explain why this might be. I think part of it was economic necessity. These are rural churches out in Johnston County. Probably fairly young churches, and it was good for them to be able to share a pastor. Also the proximity. Mizpah has since closed, but it was only 3.5 miles from Center Ridge and 3.5 miles from Oak Grove, which is interesting. Most of the churches then were situated near schools or on school sites. So that may speak to the reason that they were so close. There are many gifts that come with serving Oak Grove and Center Ridge. First of all, I feel really blessed because the people there, the members, have a very deep and devout faith. And it shines through in their worship, but also in their lives and in their dedication to the church and to the Lord. Another gift is that they've been most generous in their love and generous in their appreciation of my wife and our ministry there. They express that oftentimes, and of course that really makes us feel good. And the other gift is that I actually have time and the opportunities to go visit people. Typically I'm there 2 days during the week, and I try to make at least the afternoons time to visit. So I may see 1 or 2 families each time, and most people seem to really appreciate that. And of course I go to the hospitals and other things, but that's one of the gifts. I get to know my folks, so to speak, much better. There are some challenges. I have to always remember that I serve 2 different congregations. And even though they're 6 miles apart, they're 2 different faith communities. They're 2 different cultures. They're 2 different related histories. They're related. There's 2 different churches, 2 different ways of making decisions, and even 2 different communities. When I interviewed, I was reminded that the Glendale community, which is Center Ridge, is a different community than the Flower Hill community. At the time I didn't quite understand what the person on the PNC was saying, but as I've gone along in my ministry there, I certainly understand that now. So those are some of the challenges. Another challenge is what works in one church may not work in the other, and vice versa. So I try to treat them as equally as possible. I don't necessarily count hours or visits, but 1 day a week I'm in one church and another day a week I'm at the other church. And that's a set schedule, and except for holidays or if I'm sick or something else coming up with someone in the hospital, I'm usually going to be there. And I think that's really comforting to them, and it's a real benefit to me because it gets me out and it gets me in their homes and it gets me active, and they also know they have a place and a time. If they need to see me, they can. So that's been really good. For the past 4 years, we have done a joint vacation Bible school. And when I proposed this 4 years ago, I challenged them to have 20 students. And I was told later that one of the elders thought I was crazy. But I tell you what, I got 11 women from both churches together. And these are leaders. And they were determined that they were going to do this even though they hadn't done this in over 10 years. And I think the first year we had at least 40 students. And it was a wonderful success. And it brought both churches together. And since then we've alternated who hosts it. And it's worked out really well. And I think it's been important to the church and to the students who come. The other thing that we've done is when I first came, Center Ridge had their own Bible study, and I just told them, well, you know, since I'm doing the Bible study anyway, wouldn't you like to invite Oak Grove? And sure enough we have, and we've been doing that since I started, and I think we have about 15 to 20 students each Bible study once a month. The other Holy Spirit thing is we've gotten many new members between the two churches, 17, 12 with Oak Grove and 5 with Center Ridge. And sometimes, you know, it's not what I'm doing or anybody's doing, it's the Holy Spirit blessing what we're doing. And so we're real pleased about that. And that gives both churches a lot of hope. The fourth question was, what do you think other small churches need to know about sharing a pastor? Let me say that probably the first thing is that there should be jointly set expectations and boundaries. And they really, I don't think, came in with a lot of expectations, but I set some expectations for myself. And one was that I was going to be present there every week. And that's why I'm in town, so to speak, 2 days a week, and of course for Sunday, and any other time, Bible studies or other events, and certainly there for them during their hospital stays and whatever they need. I would also say that small churches sharing a pastor need to work together and worship together. A lot of these folks know each other, sort of, are probably maybe even related to each other, some just some way distantly, but it's always good when they come together, and it builds community and builds cooperation. The other thing I would say is work hard or be intentional about communication. In small churches, oftentimes communication is informal, and sometimes the pastor needs to make sure that everybody who needs to hear something or know something gets the message, no one's left out, and probably needs to anticipate that there will be needs for communication that sometimes the small churches don't anticipate. I think it's important, at least it was for me, to have an office in each church. First of all, this tells them that I'm not just going to come in on Sunday. It gives a real sense of permanence to my position, my role, and tells them that they can come by and see me or leave things for me on my desk if need be, and really says, you know, I'm invested in your spiritual journey and in your growth. And that's worked out really well. I think it was really strange for one of the churches, but they came around, and I think they've realized that it's been a real benefit. And the other last thing I would say is be willing to cooperate and compromise. Anytime, of course, you have two churches and a pastor working together, there has to be some give and take. And that's usually not a problem. And if it is, it usually can be worked out. So those are some of the things that I think small churches need to know about sharing a pastor.